Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to my channel, Do Ministry Gaming, and in this video, I'm going to be showing you the setup, test, and results of a Lex Ejoris Simulacrum Splinter farming strategy. And so recently, I put together a video for the Lex Ejoris map region where I go over some of the currency farming strategies that you can deploy in that region, and one of which is the Simulacrum Splinter farming strategy that I outlined there already. I thought I'd actually take that test for a spin and actually show the results of how something like that might work in the region. And so this video will cover exclusively that strategy. However, if you want to know more about some of the other strategies that you can deploy in that region as well, make sure to go and check that video out. I have a link in the description below to it, as well as a playlist where I actually do this for every map region in the Atlas. All right, and so as you can see from the highlight clips here, the strategy we're running is primarily Delirium, and we are stacking as many Simulacrum drops as we can, as well as map drops, which in itself has a lot of value, but also when paired with a pathological node, it gives you a % chance to get maps with layers of Delirium on them, which can be worth quite a bit. And so what I'll do in this video is I'm going to walk everyone through the setup and how I've laid everything out in terms of my Watchstones, my Ascendancies, my maps, my Scarabs, and my Delirium Orbs, and how I'm juicing the maps up. And then I'll go and show the results of what I've done as usual, and what kind of drops I got per map, and how much profit we made overall. And so without further ado, let's get started. All right, so for the setup, I've got a tab set up here already for all the maps that I'll be running. There are 12 maps here, but I'm actually doing a 15 map test. I have actually already run 3 of them because I actually wanted to actually convince myself even that they are actually worth running before I actually put the investment together for running 15 maps, because that will be the other point that you need to be aware of, is that this particular test is a fairly juiced up test. It is a high investment, high return type strategy. Okay, and so keep that in mind as you're watching through the results here. All right, so actually before we go into the Scarabs and the map and the Delirium Orb setup, I'll actually go through the Atlas Ascendancies first because it makes sense to start here. And so the strategy primarily is running Delirium. So we've got all 6 of the Delirium nodes here, and we combo that with the 4 Alva nodes to get us to time dilation for the bigger incursion loot explosions. And just to quickly walk through the nodes here, pathological maps found in areas give you 5% chance to have layers of Delirium. And so a secondary part of the strategy is to farm as many maps as possible in this region. And the reason is because it's twofold. One, red maps still sell for quite a bit if you have the ones that a lot of people run, and of course we'll be favoriting them. Those ones, of course, being like Canyon, for example, and Atoll when I favorite that in Haywark Hamlet. Those sell for 9 to 10C each already on their own. But on top of that, the more maps that we drop, the more of a chance we're going to have pathological proc, which is going to give us a 5% chance to have that layers of Delirium. So 1 in 20 maps is going to have layers of Delirium. And when you get one of those, the value of those maps actually go up quite a bit as well, because Delirium Orbs themselves, which is what you would normally be using to get Delirium onto your maps, they're selling for quite a bit this league in their own. The cheapest Delirium Orbs, no matter what they are around 30 to 40 chaos a piece already. And so when you get one on the map, it's kind of like having the Delirium Orb on it already, and those will sell for a premium. Next is Compulsive Hoarder. This gives a 10% chance to generate 3 additional reward types. And so because we are running Delirium on every map, this is just a little nice to have to get those additional rewards every now and then. And then finally, Persecutory Delusion. This one is really good. It gives us more likely to see the bosses, and then the bosses have increased chance to drop Simulacrum Splinters, which is what we're farming again. And so this one is very good for the strategy. And now just down here very quickly to talk about time dilation, along with this strategy, because we're running Delirium especially, we also want as many drops and monsters as possible. And one of the very good ways to get that is through the Alva Master Mission, running that along with your maps, and getting the incursions, because the incursions actually have a pretty big loot explosion at the end of each of them. Now, what time dilation does is it gives the incursions to have all the monsters be at least magic, so at least blue or yellow within the incursions. And what that does is it'll improve the loot explosion at the end of the incursions quite significantly, which means more splinter drops, more potential other drops like currency, more map drops. And that all lends itself to this whole strategy here where we're primarily farming splinters and maps. And then, of course, we are going to pair that strategy with some Watchstones. And the ones that I've decided to run is Split Platinum Lex Ejoris Watchstones, which is the prefix that gives increased stack size of Simulacrum Splinters found in areas. And so the T1 roll is 7 to 8%. I've got 4 of these. 3 of them are 8%, and 1 of them is 7%. And so that's 31% increased stack size of Simulacrum Splinters. On top of that, I'm adding Secrets of the Stone, which is a 25% increased effect, which effectively brings my total percentage up to, I think, 38, 39% increased stack size of Simulacrum Splinters found in areas. And then since we're here as well, we might as well talk about the Sextants because this particular one has Nemesis rolled on it. I just want to be clear, this is not a Nemesis focused strategy. I'm not rolling Awakened Sextants, hundreds of them to get Nemesis on every map. I just so happened to have Nemesis rolled on the first set of Watchstones, and so I ran it, of course. Like I say, I've ran 3 maps already, and there were 4 charges. And so this particular set of maps, I haven't. But the plan is not to roll Sextants until I get Nemesis every time, okay? So the next set of maps I'll be rolling Sextants on, I'll just be rolling them normally until I get sort of anything decent on them. And if it happens to be Nemesis, then great. I will also switch up the strategy a little bit and re-roll the maps until they have rare monsters or Nemesis, of course, to capitalize on this currency gain. But otherwise, I'm not focusing on this strategy. And so again, this strategy is focused on getting splinters and maps. All right, and then finally onto the actual setup themselves. For the 4 Scarabs, I am running Gilded Breach Scarab. This adds 3 additional breaches, and so of course it will give us a lot more monsters, which is the goal to advance the Delirium rewards, but as well as drop as many quantity of items as possible and as many splinters as possible. So I'm running Gilded for the 3 additional breaches. Gilded, this thing here is about 15 chaos each. Rusted Legion Scarab for 7 chaos apiece. Then I'm running Polished Divination Scarab. You know, this may or may not be worth running, but like I say, because I'm running Burial Chambers, I do hope for that Doctor drop. And so if we get lucky, we'll get that. And these are cheap. These are only 2 chaos each. And so I'm running these. And then finally, the Gilded Cartography Scarab. Okay, these are 9 chaos each. And this gives 50% more maps found in area. So again, we're stacking as many map drops as we can for those red maps. And then in particular, the Delirium maps. And then finally, we are actually running a Cartographer's Delirium Orb on every map. If you do not run a Delirium Orb, it is hard to force Delirium onto the map. The only other alternative is that you actually roll Sextants, Awaken Sextants, until you get the Delirium Mirror. I don't know which is cheaper to do. And so I just bought the Delirium Orbs and I went for Cartographers so that I can force even more maps to drop. Cartographers is a little more expensive. The cheapest Delirium Orbs you can get to 30 to 35 chaos. These ones I bought for 45 chaos each. And so I'm running that on these maps, but hopefully it will pay out with the additional map drops. And then for the map device, I am going to be running the Alva, like I mentioned, on every map as well for that incursion and time dilation drops. And then I'm also going to be running Harbinger for 2 additional Harbingers. All right, and so when you sum all that up between the Scarabs, the Delirium Orb, and the map device and the maps, the total that we're investing into each map run is actually around 90 chaos, 91 chaos per map. And so like I mentioned before, this is a high investment, high return strategy. This isn't even the ultimate juice, of course. You can definitely take it to another level, but this is a level that I'm comfortable at in terms of being a high enough investment level that hopefully we'll see some good returns. And so I guess we'll find out after I run the rest of these 12 just what those returns will look like. All right, so I have run the 15 maps now, and as always, I will do a little show in-game of what I dropped, but then go through in detail on a spreadsheet afterwards in terms of how the returns were overall and per map. And so we did drop 4 pages of loot or so in the 15 maps. And right away, I'm going to point out that I did drop a doctor card in the 15 maps. This is really just for show here. I'm not including this drop in any of the calculations in any other point in this video, just because when you're doing this strategy, you're really not expecting a doctor drop. And in 15 map sample set, which is quite a small sample set, you certainly should not be baking in one doctor drop in 15 maps. That is absolutely unreal. And so very cool that I drop one, but I will not be including this in any of the calcs afterwards. And then for the rest, this is what we had. One really interesting to note is I ended up dropping a lot of Awakened Sextants. This is 65 Awakened Sextants, which is actually a lot of value in itself. These are 4.5 chaos, 5 chaos each. And then, the second page of loot here, some of the uniques over here. We did drop 2 unique small cluster jewels from the bosses. That is, of course, from Persecutory Delusion. And then we did fight the Trial Master twice, I think. The first time he didn't drop anything, and the second time he dropped the helm. And then I stored separately on the next 2 tabs the Simulacrum Splinters and the red maps, because that's what this strategy largely revolves around, those splinter drops and the map drops. And so what I ended up with was 3 full Simulacrums and 129 splinters, which is 1,029 splinters over the 15 maps, which is very good. I can show you the per map numbers in the spreadsheet afterwards. And you can see all the red maps that we dropped. This is quite a bit. And of the red maps, we did end up with 6 Delirious maps, and these are all T16 Delirious maps, 60%, 40%, 80% even. So these are quite good and will sell for quite a bit if I don't end up running them. But even the maps in general, I mean, this is a ton of value. Even if you just look at something like Atoll maps, look at the number of Atoll maps that I had dropped because of the favoriting. And so these are 10C a piece right now, and at this bulk level, you can definitely sell them for much more. And even just like T16 maps, look at all those T16 red maps overall. And so this here is actually a ton of value, but I'll go over that in the spreadsheet. All right, and so from there, this is all of the details of every map that I ran. Here's the 15 maps. And on the left in the orange here is really the setup for each of these maps. I described it at the beginning of the video, but I did have to make some changes along the way, in particular maps 8 to 11. I ended up rolling on the Sextants, Enraged Strongboxes, and also Corrupted Strongboxes. And so I swapped to a Monstrous Treasure strategy, which I did not proc once in the 4 maps at all, but I did switch up my Scarabs a little bit. And by the way, the Doctor card dropped in map 14, which is none of those. And then the other thing to note is, that first map I was running a polished Harbinger Scarab with the Prophecy Delirium Orb. But then I realized I wanted to go to that map strategy as well as the Simulacrum Splinter strategy. And so I switched from there onto the Gilded Cartography Scarab and the Cartography Delirium Orbs. But generally speaking, unless there was a special circumstance, I was basically running a Polished Divination Scarab, Rusted Legion Scarab, Gilded Breach Scarab, Gilded Cartography Scarab, Cartography Delirium Orb, and then the Alva Master missions and Harbinger map mod. And again, for the 4 where I got Enraged Strongboxes, I ran the Ambush map mod instead of the Harbinger map mod. But here are all of the returns per map, broken up into 3 sections. The green one talks about sort of my total investment and my total income without the doctor again, and the profit without the doctor. And you can see right away here, just from a total perspective, I spent 1,400 chaos on this 15 maps, or 94 chaos per map, and I walked away with the 2,660 profit. That's after paying off the investment here. Of course, if you just want to look at income, it would be this 4,000. And then profit per map, I was actually making 177 chaos per map without the doctor. All right, and then from there, I did track the number of splinters that drop per map, its splinter value in chaos, and then the number of red maps that drop per map and the map value, and then the value of those 2 things up. Because again, this strategy was originally centered around splinter drops and red map drops, and also delirium map drops. And so I wanted to see what the value of that was. and then everything else was kind of supposed to be gravy, and it kind of did work out that way. So first of all, the number of splinters drop out of the 1,029, that works out about 69 per map, and how it breaks down usually is about each incursion drops about 10 to 15 splinters on average. And then anytime you see a Delirium boss, it would drop about 20 splinters, and then the rest of the splinters will drop throughout the rest of the map. And so the value of 69 splinters per map is actually about 46 chaos per map just from splinters. And then from there, you're dropping a ton of red maps as well. And you saw in the in-game data there that I dropped 6 maps with Delirium layers, I think. And those range from anywhere between 20 chaos each to 70 chaos each. And so I dropped 6 of those. But anyway, on average, I was dropping with 10 red maps. You saw the number of ATOL maps that I ended up with. It was crazy. And then the map value on average per map was about 90C. So I'm actually making about 136 chaos per map just between splinters and red maps. And so the initial investment was 94 per map on all of this stuff that I had to put in. And just from splinters maps, I'm already covering for the initial cost of the map plus more, plus 45C or so. I mean, this is about a 50% rate of return just on splinters and maps alone. And then the rest of the profit, of course, anything else that drops literally in the map will be pure profit and gravy. And then, of course, down here is just the quick summary table. So the total profit I made from this on the 15 maps was 2,660 chaos profit after I paid back the 1,403 for an investment. And so the profit was that the total time it took me to run 15 maps was about 3.5 hours. I can do them in 15 minutes or so off stream, so it's about 4 per hour. And that profit ends up working to about 760 chaos per hour of profit. So this is absolutely not a bad strategy at all. So far of everything I've tested so far, it's actually up there among the best. Even I haven't done a fully juiced out Harbinger strategy involved with rest yet, which I will shortly after this experiment. And so I'll see if that actually beats this number or not. All right, and then just quickly, this is the graphical representation of what we just talked about. The blue line represents the investment for each map, which is around that 94 chaos per map. And then the 3 colored bars represent sort of the breakdown of the drops. The orange bar is the value of the splinters, the gray bar is the value of the maps, and the yellow bars is the value of everything else. And as you can see, the splinter value and the map value usually covers off enough to pay out for the map investment themselves. And then everything else is just gravy from these maps. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, please like and subscribe as always. I also stream on Twitch Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Times are in the description below. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.